We have developed the AI that allows you to identify the wrinkle, to measure the wrinkle, but then you need obviously the scientists behind that to interpret the data.
Welcome to today's episode of Tech.Rulez.Period. My guest today has moved from playing in an orchestra to orchestrating the digital transformation in the consumer goods industry. Welcome to the show, Annette Hamann, the CIO of Beiersdorf.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you. You have been more than 20 years, I think, in the consumer goods industry. If you look at technology and how it has changed from the past to today and maybe potentially and a matter of fact tomorrow, what's your view generally on how technology has changed the way and how it will change?
From my perspective, technology has completely disrupted with the way we do business. And I mean, if you look on the personal side, how long do you have a smartphone? So maybe it's 15 years when the first iPhone came on the market. And since then, at least for myself, I don't wear a watch anymore. I don't have an alarm clock. I don't use paper-based street cards anymore. And at my last move, I decided to get rid of my 20 bands of the encyclopedia I got when I was 15. So therefore, it seems that the smartphone now displaces, or smartphone as a technology displaces with its capabilities, a lot of things that have been done in a different way. And for me, that's very similar as well in the business environment, that things are now being done, business is done in a different way versus it was done 10 years ago.
And if you transfer that now to your roles that you had at P&G, that you had at Henkel, today at Beiersdorf, do you then mirror that into the organizations you lead, or how do you basically do that on a day-to-day basis?
I think you can see that in the way how the IT organization is placed in the organization. Yeah. So when I started, it was in the end a small team. I mean, in most of the times, they were placed in the basement because all of the equipment was so heavy that no structure of a building would hold that. So therefore, you were always in the basement or even below. Then you had the big wave of outsourcing where IT was seen as a commodity because in the end, you provide infrastructure, you provide PCs, you provide phones, but that's it. But now IT gets more and more back in-house, and it's seen as a competitive advantage. So in the end, the playfield of technology still has the component of enabling people to work with computers, with smartphones, with the right infrastructure. It enables processes to be done more and more automated with transactional systems, but then it allows as well to move more and more by collecting data and analyzing data and taking decisions and even executing decisions automatically. So the span gets broader and broader what IT does, and therefore as well the placement of the function within the organization is very different versus 20 years ago.
Very insightful to hear about your last 20 years. I mean, one hypothesis that we have in Tech.Rulez.Period is that compression is actually the new normal. That means what has used to happen in 8-9 years happens in 1 to 2 years. What's your view on compression and how long are your projects today?
That is, from my perspective, the big transformation a lot of companies who exist longer than 50 years are going through, because the organization is used to these long-running projects, right? For nobody would complain if an implementation of a certain technology takes several years. On the other hand, when you look at the technology cycles, you cannot afford that any longer, because after 5-6 years, there are already other capabilities in the market that you need to bring to life within your company environment. So what we are trying at Beiersdorf is to cut the technology implementations into pieces that are a lot shorter so that we faster see a return on invest, and then we move forward in smaller steps. One example would be our S/4HANA migration, a topic that a lot of other companies as well are currently busy with or have done that. And there we decided really to cut the scope to the bare minimum so that we are through with the global S/4HANA migration within 2.5 years. And now we are building on top of that migration and bringing in extra capability that the new technology allows us to implement.
You very often mention the word talent. one hypothesis that we have is hire for attitude instead of skills. What's your view on that, Annette?
I look for very diverse skill sets because the technology works in a business environment. So we are not using technology for the sake of technology, but we want to create business value. So you need people in the team who master the technology, who can as well create technology in a way that it supports the business processes and creates business value. But to complement these skills, you need people to understand what business value means and how the business process works and where the opportunities are. So we are trying to combine skill sets that either have education experience more from a technology perspective with experiences and people who have worked in the business and who have driven processes, executed processes, because then you bring these people together, and by that you basically can bring the two sides of the aspects that you need to really transform the way of working via technology into one team, and then you make it work.
So you're basically confirming that hiring for attitude is the way to go in today's world. Did that somehow also change the way you go out to the market getting talent, so your recruiting strategy?
So within our recruiting strategy, we actually have two different components. On one hand is our external recruiting strategy, and there we are focusing on skills we do not have at the moment in-house. So there we are really looking into certain experiences, but as well into certain agility that you have when you are moving, when you have seen several companies or have maybe worked in different technologies, and that we can then bring in and we can add into our skill pool. The other recruiting area where we are looking is our internal recruiting, because we as well try to develop talents into the IT who have done a business career before, because they have an in-depth process understanding. They have as well, on the other hand, quite a big network within the business, and that helps us then to design the technologies, or within our technology projects, the different technology capabilities in a way that they fit better for the business. And therefore, we always try to find a right balance between external talents and internal talents.
Okay, got it. And you just also mentioned the word agility, organizational agility. One aspect or one hypothesis that we have is that especially diversity and diverse teams drive the agility of an organization. What's your view there? Do you see more diversity driving more of the agility within your organization, but then generally at Beiersdorf?
I definitely support that statement. And I would rather see that the other way around. When we see teams that have been working for quite a long time together within one aspect, we deliberately try as well to bring in new people so that there is a different point of view on certain topics. And that quite often helps in several cases to even accelerate the certain discussions, because if you add a different point of view, in some cases you can find as well a different way around certain challenges that have been discussed for quite some time. And therefore as well we then provide opportunities to people to go into other areas and then drive their career from there.
Okay. So shifting now a bit towards AI. And I know you have a very decent and direct view on what AI actually means for us and from a technology perspective. So share a bit your view on the buzzword AI and how you look at it.
From my perspective, AI is, as you said, it's a buzzword. And when you read a bit all of the different publications, it seems quite easy. I mean, you buy some things and then you are done, right? You can automate everything. You can answer all of the questions. You basically don't need anybody to work anymore. So that sounds quite nice. And then if you start to look deeper into it, you realize very, very fast that everything is based on data. So if you do not have your data in order, whatever is promised on the PowerPoint will not come to life. So therefore, what we did in Beiersdorf is, there is this buzzword, and yes, you have to deliver certain AI applications because, I mean, you need to test, you need to learn, but at the same time, you need to do investments in your data. And that is what we have now done for the last 4 years, that we strategically invested in our data platform. So that means we have created a technical framework in which we collect our data, we harmonize our data, we sort our data everything you require, that you afterwards can use the data, you can analyze the data, and you can as well visualize the data or reuse it in other applications. And now that one helps us to really drive AI use cases in a manner that they are not so expensive because we have done all of the pre-work. There is an IT foundation available to use the data. And on the other hand, we are faster because we reuse the data. And that for me is always the challenge, because a lot of people think, I will try it here. So they think small and they try small. But for me, with data, that will not bring you to success. Because if you do not think big and you invest in your data, the AI application or the value the AI application brings is too small versus the investment you need to prepare the data for that certain use case. So if you do not reuse the data, I don't think you can drive AI at scale.
Okay, got it. If you look at a good use case that you have developed in that area, what directly comes to your mind?
So we look at AI in two different ways. I mean, we have AI where we basically prepare data and we buy AI applications because we have standard use cases. So this is, for example, when you look as an example in finance, where you have a lot of these accounting tools that help you to automate your month-end closing, that help you to scan your invoices and automatically post them. So there's things that we buy. Yeah. But then we have areas where we see a competitive advantage if we really tailor-make the applications to our use cases. And there, one of the best examples is R&D, right? Because we want to differentiate ourselves with our skincare products on the market. So therefore, as well, I mean, we collect a lot of data in R&D, and we have, in that sense, as well, then very framed use cases where we can run various AI applications that will help us to be faster in our innovation pipeline.
Okay, cool. And how is the collaboration model with the business around that? You just mentioned R&D, right? I mean, do you blend the teams also into each other in that example, R&D, and then your folks from IT, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, specifically in AI, you need the knowledge of the data. So, I mean, the IT can provide the data, but the IT cannot provide what the data means actually. Yeah. So therefore, we have a very close relationship. And I mean, if we take, for example, the R&D use case, we have developed an AI that allows you to measure your wrinkles, because that's very important for our products, specifically in the anti-aging area. Yeah. So when you want to prove your claim, whether it is really a visible effect of the product on your face, you need to measure your wrinkles. And that means, on one hand, we have developed the AI that allows you to identify the wrinkle, to measure the wrinkle, but then you need, obviously, the scientists behind that to interpret the data that the system brings you.
Okay, and do you also look at it then from a sort of value perspective? Do you calculate business cases and value case for it? Or is it a lot about exploration and then let's see what comes out of it?
That is the example I brought is a clear value case, because, I mean, you need to prove your claims with the data behind that. Yeah. And if you have automated the process, obviously you shorten the process a lot versus when you have done that before manually.
Okay, got it. Then moving a bit, or looking at your career from a completely different point of view, you have studied mathematics and sinology. How does that fit into the whole, context of your career? And why not, for example, from the beginning IT? And why do you now stay in IT?
I think that is one question that obviously goes back to my age. At the point in time I studied, technology was not yet a subject that you could study broadly. Okay. And a lot of people studied mathematics, and you had technology as part of mathematics. Though I have to say that was never my purpose to go into technology. It was really more the mathematics that interested me, and sinology was more like a hobby next to it, I would say. But then when I did my interviews, I was then proposed a role within the IT, and I was quite skeptical because, as I said, it was not an area where I really took a lot of effort in. And then I said, okay, I will give it a try. But obviously, and how should I say that? In the end, it was the right thing, because I realized quite fast that within IT, you basically see each and every part of the business. And you're involved in each and every part of the business. Yeah. And the other part is, you always learn something new because technology changes so fast that whatever you do for 2 years, the next 2 years you will do something very different. And that in the end excites me a lot. So I think it was the right choice, even when I was very skeptical at the beginning.
Okay, and I mean, you stayed, yeah? That's what your curriculum tells us. Maybe last view, coming a bit back to where we basically started from, and you just mentioned it also, that you by IT can then have sort of interpretation and linkage to all other parts of the organization. How did that perception of IT, and we always say in this podcast, technology is bigger than IT, how did that perception within your current organization change in a way of looking at IT only and towards technology? What's your view?
My perception is that the IT organizations, and I don't think Beiersdorf is unique in that sense, but all of the technology organizations in the different industries are going through a big change. Because what we said before, they were more seen for a long phase as a commodity, and they were more seen in the back end. And now you need more and more IT knowledge as well on the front end within each and every business process. So it is important to really establish a very good collaboration model with the business functions. And for us, we have done that actually with the start of our data platform. Because as I said before, for data, you need the business in there because you need to understand what the data means. And now, so we have created a co-creation model where we really bring the teams together and they work together. And we are now rolling that model out as well to the other IT projects, so to say, so that we work closer together to really drive more collaboration and a better cooperation in the technology projects so that we get faster return of invest.
Cool. Very, very nice conversation, Annette. And thanks for being with us today, especially seeing that also in your organization, you look from IT towards technology in the overall organization, and that from mathematics and sinology, you can actually move to IT and technology and stay there and love to work there. And you can see that, or I can see that in your face. You smile whenever you talk about your profession. Thanks for being with us today.